here from NBT Studios. Let's give it a second here, make sure that all the tech is working good here. I think we're off to the races. So I hope everybody is doing great tonight. Wanted to jump on here and talk about 5 organizational foundations that absolutely positively have to be lined out, dialed in for your training to have as much impact as it could have. We're going to talk about what are 5 key areas that, as a leader of the organization, you really want to put some energy into before you get really wrapped around the axle about learning and development. And we're going to unpack all of that here in this Thursday night pop up live. Hopefully, everybody in NBT Nation is having a good night. And hopefully, you can join me. If you happen to jump onto the chat here, let me know where you're at. Let me know if you've experienced horrible, awful, miserable, boring training. If you're the leader of an organization wanting to get more impact from your training and development efforts, or just what part of the world you might be in. But NBT Nation, you are dialed in to the idea of achieving business goals through effective learning and development throughout your organizations. And learning and development could be as simple as training that's embedded in onboarding. It could be job skills training so that people that join your organization operate at a higher level, at a more efficient level to produce more results. It could be leadership development to build the underpinnings of your leadership team and structure. It could be culture training to help your team know and understand the important mission, vision, values pieces of your organization. Learning and development really can help you build a connective tissue in your organization. But having said all that, my friends, if these 5 key areas are not really tight, they're not really dialed in, you're not going to get as much impact from your L&D efforts as you could have. Now, I want to set the stage here. These 5 key areas, you may decide, in a perfect world, you build the 5 key areas first, then worry about learning and development. But in reality, you might have to build both at the same time. So I'm going to kind of make this presentation, or we're going to have this discussion from the lens that you can focus on these 5 key areas first, then worry about learning and development, or you could maybe try to do both in parallel. And here's a fun fact, throw this out into the world. Maybe have your learning and development teams help you reinforce these 5 key areas. So with that being said, what are the 5 key organizational foundations that have to be really, really solid to maximize your ROI on your L&D investments? What are those 5 key organizational foundations? We're going to dive into those right now. First up, I bet you can guess. Let me know. Leave me something in the chat here. Can you guess what the first topic I'm going to talk about is when it pertains to 5 key foundations to increase your L&D effectiveness? Number 1, yeah, that's right. You guessed correctly, NBT Nation, strategy. You have to have a very clear, overarching business strategy in place, dialed in, vetted, understood. Your senior leadership team understands it. They've got a 2-year vision, a 5-year vision, a 10-year vision, whatever is appropriate for their level in the organization. They have clear objectives, key results, whatever system you use, you clear roadmap of the near-term systems and processes that have to be put in place to be able to achieve those long-term goals. But the overarching strategy of the business is dialed in. If you don't have that and your leadership team isn't really bought into it, and your younger leaders and maybe your field level managers aren't really understanding how to help their teams get there, let alone the frontline group, the frontline team don't know what the strategy is, I mean, you're just sort of whistling Dixie when it comes to your L&D efforts. I almost guarantee you that any L&D you do is going to be very low level, very task completion oriented, or it's going to be compliance level stuff. Did you get your paperwork in? Do you know how to badge in? Do you know how to fill out your time off requests? That type of stuff. There's nothing wrong with compliance level stuff. There's nothing wrong with low level, how do you complete your job tasks level training. That's all good stuff too, of course. But when you have a dialed in strategy, you can tie your learning and development efforts to achieving that strategy or building the systems or conditions where that strategy can be even more effective. But that assumes that that strategy exists in the first place. And without it, it's really hard to tie those two pieces together. If you're a leader, I would focus more on making sure your strategy is really dialed in, really clear. Your leadership team has built out the roadmap of where they want to be in 10 years, 5 years, 2 years, 3 years, whatever the appropriate timeline is. Everybody's aligned across the organization, and now we can go about the process of making sure your frontline teams know how to execute on that strategy, which is obviously where an L&D can help partner with you. Now, your L&D team can also help you workshop what those strategies might be. Maybe workshop some creativity type programs to help your leadership come up with strategy or identify opportunities and gaps. They can help you run workshops to align across the organization. So your L&D team can be a partner to help you strengthen your strategy. But at the end of the day, point number one of today's Pop-Up Live, if your strategy ain't clear, focus on that. Then worry about your L&D maximizing the input output there. You can't have one without the other. All right, 5 key organizational foundations that increase L&D effectiveness. Number 1, strategy. Number 2, mission, vision, values. Mission, vision, values. If that culture of your organization isn't really built around clear mission, clear vision, clear values, as the leader of your organization, put more energy into building and defining it, number 1, and building it out, number 2, and getting buy-in, number 3. Define it, build it, get buy-in on it. If that mission, vision, values, that culture piece isn't really built, any L&D effort you have, again, is going to likely get pushed down to be either compliance-based or very low-level task completion-based, which is great. It's fine. But when your culture's in place, now you can build the learning pathways to help magnify that culture. When you are teaching tasks or compliance level stuff, you can tie it to the culture so that you're reinforcing the why of why you're doing it, which makes people want to do the training more and get more out of it and be more engaged. If you have a really clear culture in place, now you can push that culture forwards while you're chasing after the strategy or executing on the strategy, so that the strategy is where we're headed here. Mission, vision, values is almost the left and right limits over here, and everybody's channeling in one direction. When your mission, vision, values, that culture of your organization is really richly defined, your leadership team is constantly talking about it and upholding it, having standards in place that help magnify it and move it forwards. When all that's all dialed in, your learning and development efforts get magnified because your culture typically is built around your competitive advantages. So now you can layer in and pepper in the competitive advantages of what makes your organization so special, so different, so in demand that this is why people need to give you money. This is why your customers should buy from you. And now your L&D efforts are not only teaching the skills needed to put all that in motion and put all that in motion far more effectively, you're reinforcing when you're completing these skills, you're completing these tasks, when you're doing your daily work, it's built on this foundation of this is what makes us so different. And now it's totally organically baked into all of the different positions throughout your organization. Customer service. Now every organization on the planet talks about how great their customer service is. Yeah, of course, great. But if what you're saying is that part of your culture is exceptional world-class service, what a great way to teach people how to deliver on exceptional world-class service through other than, or what a great way other than through effective learning and development. You can teach them how to do it. You can show them different ways to, oops, sorry, I clicked a button there. You can show your team different ways to deliver that excellent customer service. You can set a standard that then your field level managers can coach and give feedback and give guidance on. Hold people to that standard. Maybe your competitive advantage is speed of delivery. Again, lots of organizations talk about how fast they are. The Amazon effect, all that, right? Well, what better way to make your team faster and more efficient than by training them? Again, not real hard stuff here, right? So, number one, make sure your strategy is dialed in. Number two, make sure your mission, vision, values, the culture of your organization is dialed in, it's defined, it's understood, it's taught, it's bought into. Get that really sorted out, and then your training and development efforts will have a much greater impact. As I said at the start of the pop-up live, it's you'd be in a perfect world, get all that sorted out first, then worry about L&D. But you can do them in parallel. You can build out training programs while you're sort of sorting out your culture. But I would do culture. Everything comes from culture, and everything comes from strategy. Get those sorted out. That's where the intellectual power of you and your leadership team should be focused, and then the training can help fall in line behind that. And then your training is talking about bigger picture issues like strategy and culture, which is what you want to talk about, as a CEO, a director, or whatever, high-level person, right? You're thinking 2 years, 5 years, 10 years down the road. Well, this is how we help you get there. Help us to help you get there by helping us focus on helping execute strategy and growing, magnifying, and leveraging the culture of your firm. That's where L&D should be living, not the low level, here's how you badge in part of your business. All right. Number three, third foundational area that really needs to be sorted out to get the most return on your learning and development efforts. People, process, and systems. People, process, and systems. And I got to tell you, as I get deeper and deeper into my career, and as I like to remind NBT Nation, I am working alongside you out in the field. I'm a learning and development manager for an organization with 500 some odd people distributed across North America. The more I get deeper and deeper into this learning and development journey, the more I'm realizing that for an organization, strategy, mission, vision, values, people, process, systems, and then the fourth thing that we're going to talk about next are so important. And people, process, and systems, if you're in a senior leadership role watching this, get that dialed in first before you worry about L&D. Because if you got the wrong people in the wrong seats in the bus, there ain't nothing I can do to unravel that. And depending on the person and depending on the seat on the bus, they will absolutely positively detonate and derail anything I can do from a learning and development perspective. You're going to have talented team members walk out the door because they just don't want to put up with that. You're going to have other talented team members who put a lot of energy in just working around those people. You're going to have even more talented team members putting a lot of energy in trying to bring those people along. And those people just do not want to go on that journey. They're either been over promoted, they're in the wrong role, they have lost their spark, there's something going on at home. They moved into a position that just doesn't really suit them. Whatever. It's not that they're bad, awful people. They just ain't in the right seat on the bus. Get your people in the right seats on the bus first, and then worry about L&D. Now, I keep saying that, and I want to keep reminding everybody. I'm saying that somewhat just to make the point for this NBT Live. You can do both. Get the right people while you're building out the training. Don't get it twisted. But having the right people in the right roles will absolutely positively magnify the effect you get from your learning and development efforts. When you start having key leaders and then key learning and development leaders partnering together, it's magical. I've experienced in my own career. I've had those leaders that just absolutely are not interested in learning and development whatsoever, and they will fight you, they will derail you, they will push you down to some very basic level thing, and it's exhausting. And I've had those relationships with leaders who are wonderful. They just want the best for their people and their customers and their company. That's all they care about. And that's all I care about. And when you get those two ideas, two groups together, and you're like, here's the problem, and I don't know what to do. Well, could we try this? I don't know. What do you think the real problem is? Well, maybe it's this, maybe it's that. Huh, okay, what have we tried before? Have we, and it becomes this beautiful, magical partnership where you're just trying to move the ball down the field a little bit further, and ideas start flowing. And then you get 3 or 4 or 5 of those key leaders in an organization that you get a chance to partner with. And I've had that before too. And it's wonderful because now you can do bigger things together and put on huge organizational wide events that are really great. That's, oh my gosh, so exhilarating. So people, process, and systems, super important. I'm on here. If you followed NBT Nation across any social media platform for any period of time, you will know that without a defined process, you cannot train it. No process, no training, no luck. Get your processes sorted out, people. If you haven't bothered to write down the steps of the process, why are you trying to teach it to somebody? Let alone, let me start that all over again. If you haven't bothered to write down your processes, why are you bothering to train it, let alone holding somebody to that standard? Bizarre to me. Systems will also unravel effective training. If people don't have the systems they need just to survive their daily work, they're not going to be that interested in learning how to train. And then if they have poor systems that are inefficient, that have 1,000 workarounds and 1,000 band-aids, or they have to access 49 different computer systems just to get through the day, the bandwidth they have left over for learning and development is not much, right? So they're going to come up with all the workarounds, all the ways to avoid the misery by these poor systems that they have. If you have dialed in systems, then when your systems are working well to support the daily work, now you can partner the learning and development together with your systems. So you can do more effective training about those systems. You can do more effective training so your teams can figure out how to use those systems at a higher level. And you might be able to even partner the two things together. So people, process, and systems. I know I've spent some time on it on this particular point, but if you don't have a great strategy and you don't have great culture through mission, vision, values, and you got big gaps in people, process, systems, I mean, the odds of training being that great inside your organization are going to be pretty low. I'd almost bet somebody else's next paycheck that your learning and development efforts are 100% low-level, compliance-based stuff that is just dreadful and not going to move your business forwards. So strategy, mission, vision, values, culture, people, process, systems, get that sorted out, which brings me to point number 4, which is another the last point of this these topics, that as I get deeper and deeper into my career, the more I realize how essential these are to the health of the organization in general. I mean, if you don't have these things sorted out, you're not going to have to worry about L&D for very long, because you're not going to have a company for very long. Communication. Is the communication throughout your organization dialed in? Now, this is a never ending battle that all organizations fight, wildly complicated, wildly complex. And there probably is no perfect setup, no perfect nirvana where you just wake up one day and whoa, your communication is on point and totally flawless. Having said all that, if your communication is a gigantic mess and a nonstop dumpster fire, and nobody is talking to anybody, and nobody is communicating back and forth, and emails are flying all over the place, and nobody's reading them, and everybody's got 10,000 Teams messages or Slack channel messages, and nobody pays attention to those, and then you have a whole bunch of ineffective meetings, and nobody really knows or understand what everybody's contributions are, let alone the strategy, the culture, then and how all the people, process, and systems fit together. And the communication, even face to face, is very poor, because you have high ego, low active listening people who are just going about their business and not even bothering to listen for understanding, because their ego won't let them. If you've got a communication dumpster fire like that, I mean, again, the odds of you having effective training are going to be pretty slim. And even if your training is great, let's say you have an organization with some real communications challenges, but you are able to hire a certified no boring trainer like me. They can come in and do a wonderful job, and it don't matter, because it's not going to move beyond whoever was in that training room at that time, or whoever completed that e-learning, or whoever watched a little micro learning, micro explainer video. Other than the people that have that direct connection with a certified no boring trainer like me, everybody else in it ain't going to get outside them to get to the rest of the organization, because there's no good communication. The whole thing starts to fall apart. So communication throughout the organization, that's another foundational pillar that you got to have that sorted out for your training to work at peak efficiency. Now, as I also have been saying since the beginning of this podcast, and keep reminding you, NBT Nation, that you don't it's not one and then the other. You can build them in parallel. And while you're working on your communications gaps, you can also work on your L&D gaps, and can always get crazy and have your learning and development teams help you with the communication stuff. Depending on your organization, you may have that may live over with marketing, that may live in HR. You could have a communications group. Who knows? But why not have your L&D team help reinforce and teach good communication throughout the organization? Here's the thought. Maybe you have standards in place for how communication is supposed to be done throughout the organization. Have those been communicated effectively out to your teams? Well, guess what? You can embed those communication standards into your learning and development efforts. You could roll it into onboarding. You could bake it into different pieces of job skills training, so everybody's coming in and learning how to do whatever. And part of that is how to communicate effectively. You could build that into your ongoing development programs. You could tie it into your leadership training, all bake it all throughout all of that. So you can focus on it first, get it really solid, then worry about learning and development results. You could build both in parallel, or you could partner together to try to build at whatever level you're at. There's lots of different ways to play it. But if you don't have good communication in your organization, it is going to make the impact from your learning and development efforts, it's going to mute the impact from your learning and development efforts for sure. All right, we got one left. Strategy, mission, vision, values, the culture of the organization, people, process, systems, communications. Worry about that if you're a senior leader long before you worry about L&D. Again, you can build in parallel. You can bring your L&D team in to help you grow and expand these areas and reinforce them and grow them. Like I said, you could do some workshops to help different aspects of those 4 points get sorted out and help your leadership teams to all get on the same page. Maybe they can help you workshop defining some of these things. They can maybe help you workshop how to assess the strength of these inside your organization. They can go and put together the tools your leadership team needs to do the assessments part. Lots of different ways to play it with some sort of a good quality, no boring training, no boring trainer on staff. Which brings me to point number 5. To really maximize the impact and the effect, the results you get from your learning and development efforts and investments, do you understand what makes your customers happy? Do you know and understand at a deep level what makes your customers happy? Now, we talked a little bit earlier about this idea of competitive advantage and how it's part of your culture, and you can bake that into the training and all these different things. But I got to ask you leaders out there a question. If you're watching this on whichever channel, if you don't know what makes your customers happy, how do you expect me to teach your teams how to make your customers happy? If you don't know and understand what makes your customers want to buy from you, how can you expect a learning and development pro to build all of these programs and systems and frameworks and build all the things to help teach that? You don't know what it is, but you want me to teach it. I mean, when you say it out loud like that, it sounds ridiculous, right? But I'd be willing to bet, and the business evidence is pretty clear. I don't have to bet, I know. We all know the numbers of businesses that are no longer in business because they either didn't really know and understand what their customers wanted or they lost sight of it. They didn't keep up with what their customers wanted. I mean, you could think of lots of different organizations that are now in the dustbin of corporate history because they didn't really know what their customers wanted or they couldn't keep up with it. They didn't change with the times. The more you know as a leader, a leadership team, or just as an organization, what makes your customers happy, the more effective your learning and development efforts are because we can build programs to maximize that happiness. It could be a service industry, and we teach people how to do the service stuff in such a way that it really delights the company, the customer, makes them super happy. It does the things that your customers actually want. If it's a product or service and you really know why this product makes your customers happy, guess what? We can build that into how your sales team sells the product and presents the product and finds the opportunities and qualifies the opportunities, how they really go out and help the customer go through a discovery-based needs analysis and really understand, maybe even help the customer recognize a need that they didn't even know they had. We can build a training program to help make all that happen if you know what your customers need on the front end or what makes them happy. You know, maybe you've got a product that's got some real technical advantage over your competitors. Guess what? We can build that into a training rollout of that new product. So when the new product comes out, all of the sales enablement stuff has all of that great material built into it. You know, maybe you're in a medical environment and, you know, compassionate care is something that your organization is really leaning into. Well, guess what? Now all of your training is giving examples and building role plays and scenarios and simulations and case studies. It's building everything. The leadership training is really reinforcing this idea of compassionate care. And how do you deliver that to your patients? Know what makes your customers happy. And it seems so simple, And after many years in the business environment, I've worked for some organizations that really, really focused on what makes their customers happy. And I've worked for some organizations that didn't. And guess what? Some of those that didn't are no longer in business. That's just how the way it works. But you can't expect me to teach it and train it and grow it if you don't know what it is. And nobody in the organization really knows it and understands it. So, what makes your customers happy? Get that sorted out. That's the fifth one of the list, where it's a little harder for the training group to help you figure that out. Um, and it's a little harder to build in parallel, but you can do that. So the smart play there is know it from the front end, because without it, you're not going to have a business for very long. And then L&D will be the least of your worries. So there you have it, NBT Nation. 5 organizational areas that really need to be sorted out to have the best impact from your learning and development efforts: strategy, culture in terms of mission, vision, values, people, process, systems, communication, and really knowing and understanding what makes your customers happy. The more you know that, the better. As I've said repeatedly, your L&D teams can help you build a training environment, a training culture, a training condition. They can help you do that in parallel while you're dialing in and sorting out some of these issues. These 5 things do not all have to be nirvana and perfect and wonderful before you start training. You can start doing them at the same time. And in many cases, in most cases, your L&D teams can help you to dial some of these things in. They can help you internally to sort things out. L&D is not just training the frontline crew on how to do their daily jobs. Think about if you've got a really competent L&D group, they should have some leadership training component inside your organization. They should have built that out already. They should be building out different workshops inside the organizations for strategy alignment and solutions development and succession planning and creativity exercises to come up with new and innovative solutions. They can help you facilitate analysis sessions. Your learning and development team can do all of that stuff in their sleep, or they should. And if they can't, go to noboringtraining.com and come, give me a chat. We can get that all sorted out. But your learning and development team can help you dial in and reinforce and teach and expand all of these different areas throughout your organization. So there you have it, NBT Nation. I mentioned, please be sure to visit noboringtraining.com for more resources, more tools, more free items to be able to help you improve the learning and development in your organization. You can visit noboringtraining.com also to get your copy of the Hard Truths of Becoming a No Boring Trainer. 60 pages, 20 hard truths, 15 infographics, and loads of practical information to take basic sort of run-of-the-mill training and really make it a no boring training level endeavor. For less of the price of a cup of coffee, can get you really sorted out. It's a PDF for download. You're going to love it, and it's really going to give you a lot of great practical tips. Visit noboringtraining.com for that. There's a lot of resources there for trainers and for leaders alike. Thanks for joining me here on a random Thursday night pop-up live. Had a little bit of time. I was here in the Southern Studios and wanted to reach out. Thanks so much for listening, everyone, and hopefully you have a great rest of your evening or day in whatever